Right then, welcome back to episode 8 of the Hobbit Hodling Room. I'm TC. We've got Mike here as well.
Hello.
How's it going, Mike?
All right. How are you?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Tell us about the chart behind you then.
Oh, the chart, yeah. I've got a poster made. This is courtesy of ChatGPT. I just said, make me a poster so I can track my Bitcoin progress. I've got
Crazy, isn't it?
100 little boxes on there. So each one is 0.01 Bitcoin. So a million sats, basically. So there we go. I'm 5%. Where is it? 5% of the way there so far.
That's
gives
a
you
good
something
way
to
of
work
thinking
towards,
it.
doesn't
A
it?
million sats.
A million
is
sats, yeah.
0.01. I've never actually thought of that before. That's useful to know.
There
It's
we
just
go.
even little things like a thousand sats is like $1 at the minute, isn't it? Roughly. And just
So
getting used to that.
You're still in that fiat mindset.
I know, yeah. But it's just so that when I'm out and about, it means then I can convert it to Bitcoin. Because without knowing that, I wouldn't be able to do it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, $1, 1,000 sats.
Well, it's pretty much a pound. It's similar to like a pound. So you know, if you go out, buy a 6-pack of eggs or whatever for like £2, you know, that's 2,000 sats sort of thing. So it's like, it's just, that's why I've got that. It's more so that I can convert it to sats to try and get used to doing it, sort of thing. But yeah.
So yeah, the progress continues. Now we are still cracking on with the Bitcoin standard. We are on chapter 5, money and time preference this week. So it's taken 7 episodes so far to get to chapter 5. Now let me get my PDF up because I forgot to bring that one up.
Has it only been 7?
I think so, yeah.
No, that's not bad. Money and time preference, that will be another big one, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think that is still something as well that I'm working on, because exactly like you say, I still am in the fiat system. As much as I would love to be like, I'm in the Bitcoin, you know, I want to be living on a Bitcoin standard. You know what would really help? Like if you were in the US, I would 100% just have everything on strike and pay off everything on, use a credit card, pay it all off with Bitcoin, do bill pay, all of that. If you did that, you could pretty much just be living a normal life and be on a Bitcoin standard.
Yeah, they've started doing that, haven't they? Strike, where you can
in the
get
US,
paid
that exists.
into that, and then you can pay your bills with
So just set up all your bills to come out of your Bitcoin account, not your USD account in Strike. It's your Bitcoin account. Like if you do that, then you are basically living on a Bitcoin standard, and I just think that's incredible, because it's not really possible. As much as we like to say, oh yeah, we can, you know, you can buy bit refill and, you know, but it's not, it's not the same. Like,
no, we're not there yet.
Yeah. It's still it's still too hard. As much as we like to.
I wonder how it would work with UK tax laws, where if you buy Bitcoin with your wage, and then let's say it goes up a little bit in 2 weeks, you know, and you've got to pay your bills 2 weeks after, would there be some kind of weird tax thing where you've made some profit on that Bitcoin holding for 2 weeks, even if it's like 1%, and you have to then declare capital gains tax, that kind of thing?
On Nostr, I literally just posted a video about this. Actually, that was my third. What's it called? Vlog. I don't know what it's called.
You're on the Nostr vlogs.
yeah. I thought I'd try jump on the bandwagon, but I've been terrible. I think I've done 3. And that was that I had with this video that's gone like semi-viral on the channel. I've had multiple people saying that, because one of the things is 3 easy things that every Bitcoiner should do, but most don't. And one of them was spend sats, like spend and replace sort of thing. And I had so many people saying about tax, and I was seeing this, and I was like, this is another great idea for a video. And sort of say, I was thinking my answer was going to be, you know, Bitcoin's bigger than your personal financial gain, so paying a little bit of tax is worth it, because basically, if everyone thinks that same way and no one actually spends Bitcoin at all, then that is how Bitcoin can fail, because then everything can centralize. People won't run their own nodes because there's no incentive to do it. It would all get centralized within a few institutions. Everyone relies on them. They can change some rules subtly, censor transactions, yada yada yada. All the general censorship stuff. So my point that was what I was going to say, is be like, yeah, but just you've got to, like, it's just one of the things, just give the things to your accountant, pay the tax on it, and know that by you doing that, you're helping the system build the system, and then it's actually going to be worth way more in the future. Whereas if you just don't do it and everyone has that same thinking, then that's potentially the downfall of Bitcoin. Whereas then I had someone who talked about FIFO. You ever heard of this? First in, first out.
No.
So he's like, I bought Bitcoin when it was way lower. So let's say you bought it $20,000. This is actually what I've just done with AI just before jumping on here. You buy it for $20,000. It's now $120,000. Let's say you buy a TV for $1,000 and you manage to use Sats for it. So you either find someone that accepts it or use Bitrefill, whatever. He would pay $170 in tax on that one purchase. And I was like, geez, that's significant. That's not, it's not like, it's not just a little bit that makes the purchase be like, is it actually even worth doing? And so it's made me rethink it. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is if you have that, but I don't think that's the same in every country. I don't actually know what it is in the UK. I've got to do my tax return for last year, but I only just moved back to the UK last year. So this is my second year moving back. Before then, it wasn't.
I think it's 20% up to a certain point.
But that's my thing, is like, is it 20% or would it be first in, first out? Because again, I've bought Bitcoin when it was way cheaper. So does that mean it's going to take 20% of my
profit,
from my first initial purchase? Or if I bought Bitcoin today and then spent Bitcoin today,
okay,
is there like no tax? Because, do you know what I mean? Like, I need to try and work this out.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, who knows? That sounds like a bit of a nightmare to even try and
exactly. And this is the issue at the minute. And I think it's probably why there will be so many people that just don't declare it and just do whatever. But really, and like, as much as everyone's like, the government can't control it and can't blah 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 it or whatever, but they can really impact how it's used. And not everyone could just move to El Salvador or wherever it is, Madeira,
Portugal or whatever,
Costa Rica, South Africa. There's lots of these like circular economies, but not everyone can do that or would want to do that. So
tax the hell out of it is one way of crippling it in a way. I mean, this is why people like Bitcoin Policy UK, have you ever seen any of those posts?
Yeah, I've seen
they're pushing for like no capital gains tax on Bitcoin, which would
really
really open up the,
in the meetup, there was a guy who posted in the group on I think it was Bitcoin Policy UK, and they basically templated 3 emails or 4 emails that you could send to your
MP,
local MP. So you put in your postcode, and it just. So I actually did it. I did it with like one of the emails. What one was the one? I think I chose Bitcoin keeping the what's it called? Why is my brain not working today? Where they like confiscated the Bitcoin in the UK, and so I chose
the strategic.
So
reserve?
Keep that basically. Yeah.
Okay, fine.
So I that was the one. I think the other 4 was one was on tax, one was on keeping the UK, keeping the Bitcoin. One was on, can't remember now, but like there were all 4 of them I thought were quite important. Whereas I was trying to put myself in their shoes. Like that's actually the thing that maybe they would be more interested in. Like they don't care about me, but they might care about themselves, sort of thing. And once they start caring about themselves and holding Bitcoin, then that might trickle on the other things, is my thinking.
Yeah. I mean, do you watch any, do you know Jacob Rees-Mogg? That I
Yeah,
don't
yeah,
think
yeah.
is it an
That's
MP or maybe an
the
ex-MP?
it's the son of the
The guy that wrote Sovereign
sovereign
Individual. Was it
individual.
William Rees-Mogg, Lord William Rees-Mogg, something like
Yeah.
that? But he was. I watched his last video, which came out this week. He's actually big into Bitcoin, but he was saying that the UK economically now is almost on the verge of the. I think he used the term like doom loop or like doom cycle or something, where they're literally just borrowing to pay off their interest payments, and that's. He says when you get to that point, then it's like you're basically screwed. Like there's not many
It
ways you can get out of that if you just start.
it's
All of the
like
loans, the new loans, are paying off the interest of the old loans. It's like being stuck in a payday loan
that's exactly what I was going to say.
cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Have you seen that? What's his name? Banker Dave. Banker Dave 2.
I don't think so. No.
His films, those films are great actually. Like it's based on true story as well. Some guy from Burnley, called Dave, obviously, but he basically has taken down many payday loans and like got them, made them have to like go bankrupt basically and destroyed a few of them because he was seeing how many people it was destroying people's lives because they didn't understand what they were taking on. But yeah, it's exactly that. Like there's just, it snowballs. And that's, the US is not far away. The US is now paying more on their interest payments than they are on military. They're like, it's about 1.2 trillion, I think, that they're paying on interest alone, and it's about 1.9 trillion for healthcare, and it's under a trillion for their defense. So it and people just think, oh no, it's not going to happen here. It's not going to happen in the UK. It won't happen in the US. Hyperinflation won't happen. We're a million miles away, and it's like we're so close at the minute. It's just crazy because then, exactly like you say, what are they going to do? They're going to print more money, which means the interest goes higher. And sure, they could cut like interest rates to zero again, but that's just going to cause even more inflation and even more printing, and that's like whatever Rees-Mogg said, the doom loop. That is the doom loop.
So buy Bitcoin. Not financial not financial advice, but
stay humble.
Research Bitcoin. Let me share my screen here for this book. I hope it works this week.
All right, shall I read?
Yeah, go on then.
So chapter 5, money and time preference. Sale money is chosen freely on the market for its saleability because it holds its value across time, because it can transfer value effectively across space, and because it can be divided and grouped to small and large scales. It is money whose supply cannot be manipulated by coercive authority that imposes its use on others. From the preceding discussion and from the understanding of monetary economics afforded to us by Austrian economics, the importance of sound money can be explained for three broad reasons. First, it protects value across time, which gives people a bigger incentive to think of their future and lowers their time preference. The lowering of the time preference is what initiates the process of human civilization and allows for humans to cooperate, prosper, and live in peace. Second, sound money allows for trade to be based on a stable unit of measurement, facilitating ever larger markets free from government control and coercion. And with free trade comes peace and prosperity. Further, a unit of account is essential for all forms of economic calculation and planning, and unsound money makes economic calculation unreliable and is the root cause of economic recessions and crises. Finally, sound money is an essential requirement for individual freedom from despotism and repression, as the ability of a coercive state to create money can give it undue power over its subjects, power which by its very nature would attract the least worthy and most immoral to take its reins. That's a pretty important paragraph.
We see.
Yeah, that just kind of sums up everything that we're seeing at the minute. Sound money is a prime factor in determining individual time preference, an enormously important and widely neglected aspect of individual decision making. Time preference refers to the ratio at which individuals value the present compared to the future. Because humans do not live eternally, death could come to us at any point in time, making the future uncertain. And because consumption is necessary for survival, people always value present consumption more than future consumption, as the lack of present consumption could make the future never arrive. In other words, time preference is positive for all humans. There is always a discount on the future compared to the present. Further, because more goods can be produced with time and resources, rational individuals would always prefer to have a given quantity of resources in the present than in the future, as they could use them to produce more. For an individual to be willing to defer her receipt of a good by a year, she would have to be offered a larger quantity of the good. The increase necessary to tempt an individual to delay her receipt of the good is what determines her time preference. All rational individuals have a non-zero time preference, but the time preference varies from one individual to another. Animals' time preference is far higher than humans, as they act to the satisfaction of their immediate instinctive impulses and have little conception of the future. A few animals are capable of building nests or homes that can last for the future, and these have a lower time preference than the animals that act to the satisfaction of their immediate needs, such as hunger and aggression. Human beings' lower time preference allows us to curb our instinctive and animalistic impulses, think of what is better for our future, and act rationally rather than impulsively. Instead of spending all our time producing goods for immediate consumption, we can choose to spend time engaged in production of goods that will take longer to complete, if they are superior goods. As humans reduce their time preference, they develop the scope for carrying out tasks over longer time horizons, for satisfaction of ever more remote needs, and they develop the mental capacity to create goods not for immediate consumption, but for the production of future goods. In other words, to create capital goods.
I found it in me that it's not easy to elongate your time preference. Do you know what I mean? I think I'm quite impulsive naturally, maybe a bit animalistic. Like if I'm driving past the Golden Arches, McDonald's, I think, oh, Mackey's, yeah, go on then. I'm thinking, why have I spent £5 on that or whatever, 10 quid on that?
It's not even £5 now, is it? It's
well,
mad.
Yeah, 10 at least kind of thing.
Like,
but
well, because we've got a couple of kids as well now, but like I go to McDonald's and I spend like £30, and I'm like, what? How have I even done that?
You know, one thing in terms of inflation, one thing I noticed is, I think it was probably about a couple of months ago, I went to the chip shop to get fish and chips, and I haven't had fish and chips for like years, probably like 10 years. And I remember that it used to be like £5, £6 for a fish and chips. You know, it used to be like the bog standard kind of English workman's tea, fish and chips. It was £15 for a fish and chips with mushy peas. And that is like the standard price now of a fish and chips. So if you've got like a family of 4, you're talking like 60, £65 for a fish and chips.
It's insane.
It's like that's like a luxury restaurant bill.
Yeah.
Mental. That is like insane inflation.
Do you know what?
In real time.
What I found as well is being away from the UK for 8 years. Obviously, we come back at Christmas every now and then and come back in the summers and things, but not living here for like 8 years and then coming back, it literally was like seeing in first hand. It was almost, going 8 years in the past, just because we were sort of trying to work out when we came back. We're like, how much is it going to cost for us to live? And like, think of bills and, all the sort of things that we didn't really have to think of too much there, because bills and accommodation, all that sort of stuff was just covered for us. And it's all tax free as well. So it was so not even a thought for such a long time. And you come back and it was like, oh my God, like, I remember we used to spend £40 on a weekly food shop. We used to get Tesco's delivery, and we'd basically try and order the exact amount of food so that you could just click one button and repeat order and do that for each week. So you'd buy like 2 onions per week because we knew how much we would use. Obviously, again, we've got 2 kids now, so it's a bit different. But a weekly food shop now is about £150.
Wow.
So that's like, like I say, take out a couple of kids, but it's not.
It's at least a 3x, like a 300% increase. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's literally like seeing inflation firsthand, and it's just bananas. But Anyway,
Yeah. I mean, one thing I like about Bitcoin is that it you're saving in something worthwhile. So it does force you to save. You think, okay, well, that Mackie is going to be £5, or that coffee in the posh hipster coffee shop is going to be £5, but I could get 5,000 sats for that. So
exactly.
which one would I rather have? Would I rather have the coffee now, or would I rather have 5,000 sats, which if I can hold it for 5-10 years, is going to be worth the equivalent of 6 coffees? Or I'm thinking, well, yeah, I'll save.
Yeah, it could be much more than six
Could be much
coffees.
more.
But yeah, I think that is the beauty of Bitcoin. I've spoken to you about this as well before. How even with exactly what you're doing, where you're then finding a side hustle and then putting that all into Bitcoin. If Bitcoin didn't exist, would you even be doing that?
Yeah.
You
Probably,
might be.
no. Well, probably not. I don't know. I would be doing it out of like necessity, maybe thinking, shit, I need some cash this week, so I've got to go and deliver some food. Whereas Bitcoin, it makes it feel a little bit nicer because you think, well, okay, I've got paid £5 for this delivery, but I'm saving that £5 in Bitcoin for a long-term plan. In 10 years, that £5 delivery might be the equivalent of like £30, £40, £50 worth. So would I get paid? Do I mind being paid 50 quid's worth, 50 quid for this delivery? No, not at all.
Yeah,
So I try and frame it that way a little bit.
yeah. It just brings out the best in us. I think like all of those like financial decisions of delayed gratification and living below your means and just doing all of that, where I think we all know that at a like deep rooted level, but it's becoming increasingly hard to do it. And it's we've just been our whole life we've been marketed to with consumerism and everything.
Yeah.
And I think it's about a million times worse in the US as well, by the way. Just doing like the home gym stuff with like where you could see on things like Black Friday. Black Friday is insane in the US, like absolutely bananas. And they've got like deals all the time. They've got so many random things where it's like, I can't remember what they're all called, but in the
Cyber
UK,
Monday and all that stuff.
yeah, well, yeah, that's kind of around Black Friday, but there's I can't think what it is. Something in like March, April time, which is a big one, and obviously July the 4th, and so many days throughout the year where they just basically sales campaigns like the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is a consumer weekend. It's crazy. Thanksgiving, all of it. Whereas they just don't really exist in the UK, but it's becoming more and more consumerism. Like things like Halloween. Did you ever do trick or treating when you were a kid?
Yeah, when I was a kid, yeah.
Like it wasn't really a thing around us. Like no one really did it. Whereas now everyone does trick or treating and makes a big deal out of Halloween. Yeah.
Well, it's even like time preference to do with, okay, well, I've got half an hour. Should I get the instant gratification of just like scrolling on YouTube or Instagram? Or shall I read that book, which isn't going to feel as exciting, but in the long term, if I do that every day for 5 years, I could have read 50 books.
Exactly.
But
you
if
ever
I
read
was
The Slight Edge? It sounds like The Slight Edge.
The Slight Edge?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
That book was massive for me.
I was probably
right
browsing Instagram reels instead of reading.
But it literally is that. Like he talks about that is the difference between anyone, like everyone successful and anyone that's not, is that it's not the big things, it's not the big decisions, it's small consistent habits. So for example, read 10 pages of a book a day. Can you read 10 pages of a book today? Yes, you can, but it's easy to do, but it's also easy not to do. And then the same for tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. I didn't really read much before reading that book, and that helped me really instill that as a habit. I know it feels weird if I don't read. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, or going to the gym or something like that. It's like, well,
yeah,
do I want to eat this bag of crisps or do I want to go to the gym? It's like, well, I don't want to go to the gym. And a lot of times I've just chosen to sit and eat a bag of crisps. But long term, if I'm eating a bag of crisps a day after a year, well, there we go. I might be, morbidly obese.
Yeah.
Or if I go to the gym every day, even though I don't want to, this is the time preference thing, I'm going to be in a lot better, healthier situation.
Exactly.
The same goes for all of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's this delayed gratification is always a superior way. Even though it's hard, it's always the best way.
And I think what is hard about all of these things as well is there's no tangible physical result there and
instant reward. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It is. The reward is that you don't go to hospital in 10 years for a heart attack or something, whereas that's not fun. People are not interested in that. Sure, they don't want to go and get a heart attack or diabetes or anything like that, but it's not instant, and it's only slowly sort of creeps up on us all. But yeah. Anyway, so we're up to capital goods, were we?
No, whereas animals...
Yeah. Whereas animals and humans can both hunt. Humans differentiated themselves from animals by spending time developing tools for hunting. Some animals may occasionally use a tool in hunting another animal, but they have no capacity for owning these tools and maintaining them for their long-term use. Only through a lower time preference can a human decide to take time away from hunting and dedicate that time to building a spear or fishing rod that cannot be eaten itself, but can allow him to hunt more proficiently. That's is it Lincoln's quote or something? If you're given 6 hours to cut down a tree, spend the first 5 sharpening the axe.
That makes sense.
This is the essence of investment. As humans delay immediate gratification, they invest their time and resources in the production of capital goods, which will make production more sophisticated or technologically advanced and extend it over a longer time horizon. The only reason that an individual would choose to delay his gratification to engage in risky production over a longer period of time is that these longer processes will generate more output and superior goods. In other words, investment raises the productivity of the producer. Economist Hans Hermann Hoppe explains that once time preference drops enough to allow for any savings in capital or durable consumer goods formation at all, the tendency is for time preference to drop even further as a process of civilization is initiated. The fisherman who builds a fishing rod is able to catch more fish per hour than the fisherman hunting with his bare hands. But the only way to build the fishing rod is to dedicate an initial amount of time to work that does not produce edible fish, but instead produces a fishing rod. This is an uncertain process, for the fishing rod might not work and the fisherman will have wasted his time to no avail. On that point, I've actually seen where, people are like, oh, billionaires are all evil, blah, 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 or like, people with businesses are evil, blah, blah, blah. They fail to recognize that anyone who has started a business or anything where they've generated income themselves has taken on a significant amount of risk themselves, which might just be their own time, but that is in the same extent they could be using that time for all sorts of different things. Anyone that takes on an employee or something where there's no guarantee of them getting a certain income, and they're guaranteeing an employer, someone to get paid a certain income, they are taking on a huge amount of risk. And often many businesses take no income for the first 1, 2, 3, 4 years, whatever it is, in the hopes that it will come to something in the future. Just reminding me of that anyway, that bit. Not only does investment require delayed gratification, it also always carries with it a risk of failure, which means the investment will only be undertaken with an expectation of a reward. The lower an individual's time preference, the more likely he is to engage in investment, to delay gratification and to accumulate capital. The more capital is accumulated, the higher the productivity of labor and the longer the time horizon of production. To understand the difference more vividly, contrast two hypothetical individuals who start off with nothing but their bare hands and differing time preferences. Harry has a higher time preference than Linda. Harry chooses to only spend his time catching fish with his hands, needing about 8 hours a day to catch enough fish to feed himself for the day. Linda, on the other hand, having a lower time preference, spends only 6 hours catching fish, making do with a smaller amount of fish every day, and spends the other 2 hours working on building a fishing rod. After a week has passed, Linda has succeeded in building a working fishing rod. In the second week, she can catch in 8 hours double the quantity of fish which Harry catches. Linda's investment in the fishing rod could allow her to work for only 4 hours a day and eat the same amount of fish Harry eats. But because she has a lower time preference, she will not rest on her laurels. She will instead spend 4 hours catching as many fish as Harry catches in 8 hours, and then spend another 4 hours engaged in further capital accumulation, building herself a fishing boat, for instance. A month later, Linda has a fishing rod and a boat that allows her to go deeper into the sea to catch fish that Harry had never even seen. Linda's productivity is not just higher per hour, her fish are different from and superior to the ones Harry catches. She now only needs 1 hour of fishing to secure her food for a day, and so she dedicates the rest of her time to even more capital accumulation, building better and bigger fishing rods, nets, and boats, which in turn increases her productivity further and improves the quality of her life. Should Harry and his descendants continue to work and consume with the same time preference, they will continue to live the same life he lived, with the same level of consumption and productivity. Should Linda and her descendants continue with the same lower time preference, they will continuously improve their quality of life over time, increasing their stock of capital and engaging in labour with even higher levels of productivity, in processes that take far longer to complete. The real-life equivalents of the descendants of Linda would today be the owners of Annelies Elena, the world's largest fishing trawler. This formidable machine took decades to conceive, design, and build before it was completed in the year 2000, and it will continue to operate for decades to offer the lower time preference investors in it a return on the capital they provided to the building process many decades ago. The process of producing fish for Linda's descendants has become so long and sophisticated it takes decades to complete, whereas Harry's descendants still complete their process in a few hours every day. The difference, of course, is that Linda's descendants have vastly higher productivity than Harry's, and that's what makes engaging in a longer process worthwhile. An important Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, I think the fiat system in general incentivizes this higher time preference because, when you're up against inflation and, you have to work all the time, just like people in Harry's situation, for example, he's like, right, I've got to, I've got 8 hours to catch these fish. And maybe Harry's wife as well is thinking, I've got to do 8 hours to catch these fish as well. Because they're up against this devaluing fiat currency.
Yeah.
It's harder and harder to incentivize people with this lower time preference because it's almost like an uphill battle.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, you can still do it, but it doesn't come easy or natural for the average Joe.
Yeah. This actually touches on a massive light bulb moment I had the other day. It was a new Jeff Booth podcast, like in the last 5 minutes. I can't remember what it was, the Bitcoin magazine or something. He touched on the fact of like why everyone will get less control. It will be more decentralized. It will be more shared among us all. And it kind of touched on this. And it's basically just because like the current monetary system, you borrow money now and it's worth way less in the future. So you're incentivized to borrow money right now and use it now because you can buy things cheaper than you can in the future. Whereas in a Bitcoin standard, the reason everything will get decentralized and a lower time preference and everything like that is because, say you've got 100,000 Bitcoin, like you were an OG in Bitcoin, you've got loads of Bitcoin, and now it only costs let's say it's a million sats. What's that? 0.01?
Yeah.
Let's say it costs 0.01 to buy a house. A really nice house that is more than enough of what you need. So you've got way more Bitcoin than you're ever going to need, sort of thing, in that situation. And so let's say that you're an evil person, you want to control the population, you want to do evil things, and you want to become a dictator, whatever it is. How are you going to do that? How are you going to control people? You're probably going to need an army. You're probably going to need to employ people to actually do things for you. And how are you going to pay them? You're going to pay them with Bitcoin. And so you have 100,000 Bitcoin, and then you're going to distribute your Bitcoin. Whereas in the current system, you could just take on a new loan against your £10 million house, which is now worth 15 million. And now you've got millions of pounds created from nothing that can then pay all of these people. In a Bitcoin standard, that cannot happen. You only have that finite amount of Bitcoin. And if you want to control or do anything like that, you have to distribute it. And by distributing it, you're giving more and more power to the people.
You're losing your power away. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So it's like, I was just like, oh my God, yeah. There's another light bulb like from Jeff that I wasn't expecting at that time. But yeah, it's just something from there that made me think of that as well. Like basically, our current monetary system, like you say, you're incentivized to borrow, spend today.
Yeah.
Because in the future, that if you borrow money, it's going to cost you less purchasing power to pay it back. And if you spend money today, it's like everything's going to be more expensive tomorrow, sort of thing. So it's like a double whammy. And that is exactly why what Michael Saylor's doing and MicroStrategy and stuff actually makes so much sense. He's using the terrible fiat system to buy the hardest asset, sort of thing, or the hardest money that will ever exist. Where are we up to?
An important demonstration.
So an important demonstration of the importance of time preference comes from the famous Stanford Marshmallow Experiment. Conducted in the late 1960s, psychologist Walter Mischel would leave children in a room with a piece of marshmallow or a cookie and tell the kids they were free to have it if they wanted, but that he will come back in 15 minutes. And if the children had not eaten the candy, he would offer them a second piece as a reward. In other words, the children had a choice between the immediate gratification of a piece of candy or delayed gratification and receiving 2 pieces of candy. This is a simple way of testing children's time preference. Students with a lower time preference were the ones who could wait for the second piece of candy, whereas the students with the higher time preference could not. Michelle followed up with the children decades later and found significant correlation between having a low time preference as measured with the marshmallow test and good academic achievement, high SAT score, low body mass index, and lack of addiction to drugs. As an economist professor, I make sure to teach the Marshmallow Experiment in every course I teach, as I believe it is the single most important lesson economics can teach to individuals. And why is it not turning? It's astounded that university curricula in economics have almost entirely ignored this lesson, to the point that many academic economists have no familiarity with the term time preference altogether or its significance. While microeconomics has focused on transactions between individuals and macroeconomics on the role of government in the economy, the reality is that the most important economic decisions to any individual's well-being are the ones they conduct in their trade-offs with their future self. Every day, an individual will conduct a few economic transactions with other people, but they will partake in a far larger number of transactions with their future self. The examples of these trades are infinite. Deciding to save money rather than spend it, deciding to invest in acquiring skills for future employment rather than seeking immediate employment with low pay, buying a functional and affordable car rather than getting into debt for an expensive car, working overtime rather than going out to party with friends, or my favorite example to use in class, deciding to study the course material every week of the semester rather than cramming the night before the final exam. Been there. In each of these examples, there is nobody forcing the decision on the individual, and the prime beneficiary or loser from the consequences of these choices is the individual himself. The main factor determining a man's choices in life is his time preference. While people's time preference and self-control will vary from one situation to the other, in general, a strong correlation can be found across all aspects of decision-making. The sobering reality to keep in mind is that a man's lot in life will be largely determined by these trades between him and his future self. As much as he'd like to blame others for his failures or credit others with his success, the infinite trades he took with himself are likely to be more significant than any outside circumstances or conditions. No matter how circumstances conspire against the man with a low time preference, he will probably find a way to keep prioritizing his future self until he achieves his objectives. And no matter how much fortune favors the man with a high time preference, he will find a way to continue sabotaging and shortchanging his future self. The many stories of people who have triumphed against all odds and unfavorable circumstances stand in stark contrast to the stories of people blessed with skills and talent that rewarded them handsomely, who nonetheless managed to waste all that talent and achieve no lasting good for themselves. Many professional athletes and entertainers gifted with talents that earn them large sums of money nevertheless die penniless as their high time preference gets the better of them. On the other hand, many ordinary people with no special talents work diligently and save and invest for a lifetime to achieve financial security and bequeath their children a life better than the one they inherited. Sounds like stay humble, stack stats to me.
Yeah, pretty much.
It is only through the lowering of time preference that individuals begin to appreciate investing in the long run and start prioritizing future outcomes. A society in which individuals bequeath their children more than they received from their parents is a civilized society. It is a place where life is improving and people live with the purpose of making the next generation's lives better. As society's capital levels continue to increase, productivity increases, and along with it, quality of life. The security of their basic needs assured, and the dangers of the environment averted, people turn their attention toward more profound aspects of life than material well-being and the drudgery of work. They cultivate families and social ties, undertake cultural, artistic, and literary projects, and seek to offer lasting contributions to their community and the world. Civilization is not about more capital accumulation per se. Rather, it is about what capital accumulation allows humans to achieve. The flourishing and freedom to seek higher meaning in life when their base needs are met and most pressing dangers averted. Yeah.
This reminds me of that book I was reading that was talking about medieval England before the whole debt system came in, like the 13th, 14th century, where there was a peasant would just work like 14 weeks out of the year and he could just do the rest. He could just spend the rest of the year doing whatever he wanted because he'd earned enough in that 14 weeks to live for the full year. And if you look at like some of the buildings that were built in England around that time, they're like the most incredible, majestic buildings, that some of which took, they were like, what's that one in, is it Barcelona? That Gaudi building, Sagrada de Familia.
Yeah.
It was like, it takes like centuries to finish. So this is not just one guy building a building to then make a little bit of cash. And like most new builds nowadays, they're built to last a few decades and then that's it. Well, whatever, they're cheap just to make a quick buck and then next. Whereas back then they were built as like something, like it says here, it allows humans to achieve the flourishing and freedom to seek higher meaning in life when their base needs are met. So it's like, well, this whole like village would have contributed to building this cathedral, which they wouldn't have even seen finished in their lifetime, but they're doing it for their children and their grandchildren, great grandchildren. It's just, I don't know. It's just as it says here, this is the basis of a civilized society, and we've lost that a little bit.
It's so far fetched for us to even think of because we're so far away from that. I think that I actually think this is one of the big disconnects for a lot of people as well. I still have one friend who is just like, it sounds utopian. It's not going to happen. It's just dismissive because it sounds too utopian. Like that is his base case, and he's got no interest in Bitcoin because of this fact, like that. What I've talked about with when money actually does work properly. Like this is kind of what life will look like. He's like, yeah, but he's like, they won't let it happen. They won't let it happen. They will control it.
I understand that from where he's coming from. Yeah.
Yeah. I massively understand. It's because we're not even, we're so far away from it. Everything, we literally like hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck. And it's getting harder and harder. And it's like, I've seen so many things recently where people have been like, when is the price of food going to go down again? Like, I know it's gone up because of COVID and there was inflation and all that, but when is it going to go back down?
And that boat got stuck in that canal once. The tanker got stuck in the Suez Canal, so the prices went up. But that was 5 years ago. Why are the prices still high? So,
yeah, it's that. I think it's. I genuinely, I know, like there's always people that are like, oh, it's there's going to be a huge recession, a huge crash, or whatever soon, like that. I feel like it's like that all the time. There's always people saying it, but I just feel like right now it's like you can just sense it. I think, especially since I've come back to the UK, it's like more like the real world again, and it's like something is boiling, and just all of these protests and stuff going on.
Yeah.
I don't really follow the news a huge amount, but I see like the odd bit here and there. But it's people are
there's a tension. There's a tension, definitely. There's definitely an underlying tension which is getting more. And if that tension doesn't get addressed, then it tends to snap, whether you're an individual or a country.
Yeah, that's it. And as Jeff Booth often says, we are like jailers with the door, the jail cell door is open over there. We're free to leave anytime. We are not being held captive. All we have to do is move our time to Bitcoin. And you are out of the system. All of a sudden, everything's getting cheaper. All of a sudden, you are living in a global free market, and you can have that exactly like you just said. You can allow humans to achieve the flourishing and freedom to seek higher meaning in life when their base needs are met and most pressing dangers averted, such as losing your house or whatever it is. Anyway, there are many factors that come into play in determining the time preference of individuals. Security of people in their person and property is arguably one of the most important. Individuals who live in areas of conflict and crime will have a significant chance of losing their life and are thus more likely to more highly discount the future, resulting in a higher time preference than those who live in peaceful societies. Security of property is another major factor influencing individuals' time preference. Societies where governments or thieves are likely to expropriate individuals' property capriciously, how do you say?
Yeah, capriciously.
Would have higher time preference, as such actions would drive individuals to prioritize spending their resources on immediate gratification rather than investing them in property, which could be appropriated at any time. Tax rates will also adversely affect time preference. The higher the taxes, the less of their income that individuals are allowed to keep. This would lead to individuals working less at the margin and saving less for their future, because the burden of taxes is more likely to reduce savings than consumption, particularly for those with a low income, most of which is needed for basic survival. And that kind of touches on that point that I was saying about with taxing Bitcoin. It actually makes sense, like why people are adverse to it, because it's going to be heightening their time preference. The factor affecting time preference that is most relevant to our discussion, however, is the expected future value of money. In a free market where people are free to choose their money, they will choose the form of money most likely to hold its value over time. The better the money is at holding its value, the more it incentivizes people to delay consumption and instead dedicate resources for production in the future, leading to capital accumulation and improving of living standards, while also engendering in people a low time preference in other non-economic aspects of their life. When economic decision making is geared toward the future, it is natural that all manner of decisions are geared toward the future as well. People become more peaceful and cooperative, understanding that cooperation is far more rewarding long-term strategy than any short-term gains from conflict. people develop a strong sense of morality, prioritizing the moral choices that will cause the best long-term outcomes for them and their children. A person who thinks of the long run is less likely to cheat, lie, or steal because the reward for such activities may be positive in the short run, but can be devastatingly negative in the long run. The reduction in the purchasing power of money is similar to a form of taxation or expropriation, reducing the real value of one's money even while the nominal value is constant. In modern economies, government-issued money is inextricably linked to artificially lower interest rates, which is a desirable goal for modern economists because it promotes borrowing and investing. But the effect of this manipulation of the price of capital is to artificially reduce the interest rate that accrues to savers and investors, as well as the one paid by borrowers. The natural implication of this process is to reduce savings and increase borrowing. At the margin, individuals will consume more of their income and borrow more against the future. This will not just have implications on their time preference in financial decisions, it will likely reflect on everything in their lives. The move from money that holds its value or appreciates to money that loses its value is very significant in the long run. Society saves less, accumulates less capital, and possibly begins to consume its capital. Worker productivity stays constant or declines, resulting in the stagnation of real wages, even if nominal wages can be made to increase through the magical power of printing ever more depreciating pieces of paper money. As people start spending more and saving less, they become more present-oriented in all their decision-making, resulting in moral failings and a likelihood to engage in conflict and destructive and self-destructive behavior. This helps explain why civilizations prosper under a sound monetary system, but disintegrate when their monetary systems are debased, as was the case with the Romans, the Byzantines, and modern European societies. The contrast between the 19th and 20th centuries can be understood in the context of the move away from the sound money and all the attendant problems that creates.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's almost like this low time preference, high time preference isn't just to do with do you save cash or do you buy Starbucks? It's to do with all aspects. It even says here it's to do with morality. It reflects on that as well. You know, do I want to, go and cheat on my girlfriend, for example, because it'd be fun for 5 minutes, or 2 minutes, whatever. But in the long run, it'll lead to complete destruction and chaos in your life. So it's not just, it's a foundational thing, I think. But it's almost like the money causes people to have a higher time preference because, as you said, you constantly need to spend because your money's going to be worth less tomorrow than it is today. But at the same time, so it affects morality and society in general. But at the same time, if somebody is that way inclined, then they're going to have it's almost like circular. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Like the money affects the morality, but then the morality affects people's everyday life in general. Who knows?
It's literally fix the money, fix the world. It literally is that so much. It's just so true. It's I just wish as many people could understand that as possible, because especially all these people that are like, all these immigrants coming into our country and they're ruining it all. It's like, they're not. The money's ruining it. If the money was fixed across the world, they wouldn't even need to come into the country. That's it's the root cause, is to fix the core problem, and it will solve everything, and there should be no issue in people choosing where they want to live, and people should be able to move freely between wherever it is that they want to go. But it does baffle me why anyone wants to come to the UK in a minute.
Yeah.
I suppose there's such good benefits and stuff for them, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like a magnet. It's like, come here, you get free this. It's a magnet. If there was a country offering me that, I'd be like, yeah, go on then.
Did I ever tell you when I was teaching before we moved to Qatar. There was a student. It was basically like it's called a pupil referral unit, so the part of the school where like the naughty kids would go, and I was covering a lesson in there, and I knew I was going to get nothing out of these kids, so I was just having a chat with them. You know, like, what do you want to do when you're older? Blah blah blah. And this girl, she was 16, and she said, "I want to have a house this time next year because you know she's going to finish school." And I was like, "Oh, that's really cool. How are you going to get a house?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm just going to get myself knocked up." I was like, "What?" And she was like, "Yeah, like my mum did it, her mum did it. All you have to do is you get pregnant, the government give you a house, and then you can raise your kids in a house. You don't need to go to work." And I was just like, "What? Like, why are you saying this out loud? Like, you know, you're not allowed to."
Yeah.
And then I was like, and then I took a step back and you know, asked like some of the other kids, and they just had no clue, like literally no idea what they wanted to do. They didn't know. They had no hope for the world, like nothing to look forward to. They were just, you know, they didn't really have any support at home, nothing. And I was like, in a weird way, she's actually more switched on and clued up than a lot of these other people, because if the government is allowing this to happen,
Yeah, it's
then
not illegal.
She's learned the rules and then is using the rules to her benefit.
Yeah.
And it's like, but obviously you're not going to actually be contributing anything to society. But that doesn't, but it doesn't matter in our current system. You're almost incentivized to do it. You either do what she's doing, or you try and be like, own a business and get crazy wealthy. Anyone that is just in the middle with some sort of job, or like some super high paying job or something, anyone that's in the middle is just getting squeezed.
Yeah.
And that is what we're currently feeling. Like it affects probably 95% of people is just getting punished for trying to do the right thing and doing what they've been taught to do, and you know, go to school, go and get a job, buy a house, all of these things. Like, it's just literally punishing them all.
I understand the issue that people have, because it's almost like it's incentivized to just do nothing and you'll get all these free benefits. Whereas starting a business isn't equally as incentivized. It's almost like you're in an uphill battle. If you want to go and start your own thing, and you know, there's all this legislation and tax rules and blah, 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 and blah. So it's almost like people aren't incentivized to create and add value into the society and go and open up a shop in town and go and start their own business. But it's almost like it's way easier to just be a dosser and get benefits.
100%. And then you're going to basically be living the same life as someone that is working their ass off in a 9 to 5. If anything, you're going to be, you've got way more time because you don't need to go
way
to
more
work.
time. You got the same amount of money, but more time. Yeah.
Yeah. They probably don't have the same amount of money. Well, to be fair, some of them do, don't they? Like, it's crazy. Some of them will have more. It's mad how much that they incentivize it. But
because I don't know if a benefit's tax free or probably not. I don't know. They're probably under the limit. They'll be tax free.
Well, what you mean, like, so if they earn a certain amount, they then have to pay taxes. So they have, surely not, but maybe. The world is mad.
I don't know.
Someone even said that to me once. It's like, how do you pay taxes to pay for like government employee, you know, or like police and stuff like that? And the police earn a salary and they pay tax. It's like, how does that make any sense? Isn't that how they're getting paid? Is taxpayers' money, but then they're paying tax. And even teachers aren't even supposed to be like the same sort of thing. Yeah,
and then if the police officer then goes and buys something,
it's taxed.
It's already been taxed. Yeah, exactly.
When you actually think of it from first principles, it is bananas. But this is you know, that book that I was saying, Dominic Frisby, End of State. This is exactly his point. Is like the only thing that the government should do is do less. By them doing less, everything else sorts itself out. It will be like the short-term pain. Obviously, like, you know, this, for example, this 16-year-old, whatever she's doing now, it would be really painful for her because she would literally have nothing. But eventually, being left to its own devices and on a free market, everything will become cheaper anyway. And her life will get far better eventually. But it's this transition which we're currently going through, the 16-year transition we're currently in, is only going to get a lot more painful before, for most people, unless you stack sats and stay humble.
And there we go. It's not financial advice.
Not financial advice.
Should we call it a day for this one?
Yeah.
We've got monetary inflation coming up next, which will be a big one, interesting one. There we go. We've done an hour. We'll call it a day. See you next time.
See ya.
Peace.